Hello, hello. I'm out of breath because I realized I didn't have my light plugged in and I was going to be kind of in the dark. So today, welcome, welcome. We are talking about why the lie of being selfish, why we've been taught that being selfish is so bad, that we're wrong for being selfish. Hi, Trish. Thanks for being here and thanks for saying hi in the comments. I really appreciate it. That way I know that I'm actually live and people can hear me. So we are talking about the myth, and it is a myth, that being selfish is a bad thing, that we are wrong, that we are a bad person for putting ourselves first. And so I want to bust that myth, and I have something that I think is going to blow your mind with a little simple calendar that I found. Great, thanks, Trish. I realized a couple years ago, 3 years ago maybe, and I know I knew it before, but when I found the saying on this calendar, it was like a light bulb, life-changing moment for me, realizing where I got this idea that if I put myself first, if I thought about myself, if I talked about my accomplishments, that I would be considered or perceived as selfish. And now I know where that came from, but it's a belief that we, especially I believe as women, when we were young, we were conditioned, we were taught to believe that not being nice or being selfish, being thinking of ourselves first, of um wanting a break, of not sharing, that was selfish and that was bad. And that became a belief then that we took into adulthood, thinking that anytime that we put ourselves first, that we were bad or wrong, or that we would be perceived as something that we didn't want to be. So that's what we're talking about today, and I would love if you're here. Did you grow up thinking that being selfish and thinking about yourself, doing stuff for yourself was wrong? I would love to know. So again, as women, we were taught, as girls, we were taught in particular, it probably maybe happened to guys too, but I don't think as much, because women are taught to be the nurturers, the caregivers, right? And so that just comes along with it, putting other people first, putting their needs first, taking care of them first. And I don't think that is so much so for men. So women then grew up thinking that and it became a habit, right, to not put ourselves first, to always think of others first. Maybe even now you feel guilty for just wanting a break, right? So maybe I've done this, like you take a nap in your car just to get away, to without someone perceiving you as doing something for yourself. Or maybe you've locked yourself in your bathroom just to have time to yourself. And I have done that. That was in a toxic marriage that I was in. And that was truly the only way that I could get time to myself without being looked at as being selfish. And so, because he just thought I was in the bathroom, everyone has to go to the bathroom, right? But it truly was this trap that I felt in, that if I did something for myself, especially in that relationship, that I would be considered selfish, and I was called selfish by him. So, and no one wants to be perceived as that, right? But we have to understand that just because someone thinks that of us, that does not make what we're doing wrong. So, the calendar. So, Trish, you never thought about putting yourself first until recently? Do you mean that you never thought of it as being selfish, or you never even considered that you should put yourself first? I would love for you to, like, to clarify which way, and I'm guessing it's probably the second way, that you never even considered putting yourself first. And with that, I would say, like, a great analogy is that if you've traveled, you've heard it, right? In an airline, and it's kind of cliche, but why would they say, if the oxygen masks drop, put yours on first? That's not like, it's not, they say that for a reason, right? Because unless you have oxygen yourself, you cannot help another person. So we all need to put on our oxygen masks first. Otherwise, we cannot serve and help other people. And you can take it to that extent. If we don't do for ourselves first, if we don't fill our cup first, there is no way that we can be truly helpful to another person. Yeah, never even considered putting yourself first until recently. Yeah, I'm glad you understand it now. So I want to tell you, like, when I had this huge light bulb moment from this calendar, and it's just a one of those daily perpetual calendars that you just turn the page, to the next day. My mom gave it to me a bazillion years ago, and it has ended up in my bathroom typically, and most of the times it's like a fixture in my bathroom, and I don't even see it, so I don't always turn the pages to look to see what the message is. And the name of the calendar is Heart Warmers for Mothers and Daughters. I think it was 2 years ago on May 22nd, so 2.5 years ago, I turned to the date. I decided, "Oh, I wonder what today's message is." May 22nd. And the message is, "Forgive me and love me, God." Oh, I get goosebumps. "When I am selfish. It is not easy to always think of others first." Okay, that message, and it made me really angry when I understood this subliminal message that we were given, that if we don't always think of others first. This says that we are being selfish. And I don't believe that is whoever you believe in, whether it's God or the universe or whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't think that we are put here to always think of others first. Because again, how can we, as a somewhat depleted person, be the most helpful and the most giving and the most serving to other people when we ourselves are not complete? And by thinking that we're selfish, by putting ourselves first, makes us not complete, because then we don't do for ourselves the things that we need to be mentally stable, to be physically stable, to be emotionally secure in who we are. So if I had grown up believing that, which I most likely did because I had the belief, I felt guilty many times for doing things for myself. And I thought that it was wrong, that it made me wrong, that it made me a bad person for doing things that I needed or wanted to do to take care of myself. And I'm not talking about just frivolous things. I'm not talking about buying things or doing that. I'm talking about true, deep self care and self discovery, and figuring out how my time feels best used, or what's draining to my energy. But if I believe that it's selfish to put myself first, then my energy is going to continue to be drained because I think I always have to say yes to other people. And what happens when we do that? First of all, we're constantly saying yes to things that maybe we don't want to do, which is a little bit manipulation because we're doing it in order to be liked or to be perceived in a certain way. Second, people learn that we will always say yes, right? That we aren't good managers of our own time and energy. And so ask Heidi, she'll say yes, she'll help out, right? And that's what I got myself into is always saying yes to everything because I didn't want to be perceived as selfish or bad or not helpful, right? And then it became a habit to say yes. I would feel guilty if I said no. And it became a habit for other people to ask me. And so I was constantly bombarded, but I thought that validated me. I felt validated by other people always including me, by asking me, right? And then the third thing that happens is someone who cannot say no because they fear being perceived as selfish or they feel guilty and they don't want to feel that feeling, they are easily manipulated, especially by toxic people. So that energy of always putting other people first because you think it's the compassionate and kind thing to do, toxic people are attracted to that because they know they can take advantage of you. And so I would love you to think about that, to consider that. And I go back to, I say this a lot. It's it's really not our fault because we were taught, again, we were conditioned to believe, again, especially as women, that being selfish, that not putting other people first, just like it says in this prayer, right? That not putting other people first makes us appear selfish. And so it's not your fault as an adult thinking that doing things for yourself, prioritizing yourself, it's not your fault that you feel guilty about that and feel selfish for doing that because it's what you were taught. And everything that we were taught before the age of 7 or 8, somewhere in there, just went into our little sponge of brains as the truth. And because we didn't have any analytical ability when we were that young, everything became like the software that is running our lives. So this message, this software program of you being selfish for thinking of yourself first, of being proud of yourself, of doing things for yourself, of taking care of your own time and energy and emotional needs, that is just a program that you're running. So I am here, like, I believe my job here now on earth is to help other, oh, geez, I'm getting chills and tears at the same time. I believe now I went through all the experiences that I did, abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse when I was young and as an adult, narcissistic abuse. And I don't even, it's not necessarily abuse, maybe isn't the right word, but the traumas that I experienced, the things, just the things that I experienced, I believe now I experienced them to be on the other side of it. I had a huge awakening moment when my third husband left, stormed out of our house in a rage on New Year's Day almost 8 years ago after only being married 10 months. That was my brick to the head moment that I needed that told me that I realized I was the common denominator in all of my relationships. And so I started looking at myself to figure out what was I doing that was causing this to happen. And I'm not saying, I'm not justifying his behavior or anyone else's behavior. I am just saying that I attracted it because I was people pleasing. I thought that if I put myself first, if I spoke up for myself, if I stood up for myself, if I walked away from people that were uh, uh, living in hurtful behavior, right? That they were hurting me, if I walked away, that I would be selfish because I was taught that that was bad. And so I had that awakening moment, like I said, about 8 years ago. And now I believe that I had all of those experiences, being married 3 times, like attracting these people into my life, attracting jobs in my life that didn't fit me. But I thought I was being validated. And I thought by being selfless, that I was I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. Now I realize that my role here in this lifetime is to help other people break free, because this people pleasing, these chains are keeping us in this prison of not living our own life, right? Living our life according to what we think others want us to be, who they want us to be, what their expectations are. And most of that is made up in our heads anyway, because we want to be perceived in a certain way. So I believe that I was put here to have these experiences and now to be on the other side of that so that I could help other people see the experiences for what they were and now start living the life that they want to live. So I want to talk about my word nerd brain kicked in and started investigating this word selfless, right? So if we think of other words that end in less, like worthless or useless or I have some written down here, fearless or flawless or hopeless, right? What do those words mean? Without fear, without worth, without hope, without faith, without use, right? And if we apply that, again, I'm getting goosebumps. If we apply that to selfless, right? So if we're not being selfish, we're taught to be selfless. Well, what does that mean? That means without self. I want you to think about that. If you're listening to the replay, put in the comments, have you ever considered that? Without self, without hope, without worth, right? That's what the word less means, without. So if we are being selfless by never considering ourselves, by following this calendar message, if we are put here to be selfless, then whose life are we living? I don't believe that we were put here on earth. And again, I don't care what your religious beliefs are. You can have no religious beliefs. But I don't think any one of us were put here on earth to live selfless lives, to live always for someone else and never to live our own life. Think about it. If we all were doing that, whose life would be we be living? I certainly wouldn't have had the the revelation that I had, that I went through those experiences in order to help other people live their best lives too, if I thought that I was put here to be selfless. So I don't know how that resonates with you, but this again, this calendar message was a huge eye opener for me, because if you take it literally, it tells us that God wants us to be selfless. And I don't believe that. I just don't believe it. And maybe I'm taking it too literally, but it really struck a chord with me about how much, especially women, feel guilty for any time they think that they might be selfish or they might be perceived as selfish. So I would love to know what you think about that. Is that does that open your eyes to something new? Do you have a new perception about what that actually means? So basically, I have some notes here because I wanted to remember what I wanted to say. So basically, being selfless, right? Not being selfish means that we were basically taught to erase ourselves, right? To be what other people want us to be according to what we think we should be, instead of living from our own truth and our own intuition and our own worthiness, our own divineness. We're all unique beings, right? And if I live in a selfless way, that means I'm not living my own unique divine being. So we call selflessness love, right? We think that we're doing the kind and compassionate thing by always giving to others. But again, go back to the analogy of the oxygen mask. If we don't put oxygen on ourselves first, then we cannot be fully energized and equipped to serve and help others. So I'm not saying never give to others, right? I believe we have to give to ourselves first. We have to fill our own tank first. We have to fill our cup first, whatever analogy you want to go by. But we have to, in order to fully be able to serve others, we have to serve ourselves first. And again, a lot of times and a lot of people think that that is selfish. But I lived 55 years of my life being a people pleaser, always thinking of other people first, never wanting to hurt anybody's feelings, wanting to be perceived as nice and kind. And I got so much, I don't even want to call it joy, but I got so much validation from being considered nice and from having a lot of friends and belonging to all of these groups and committees and being asked to participate in things and just doing all this stuff. And I realized after I had that aha moment that I wasn't living my own life, and I was attracting I was attracting things in my life, people in my life that I didn't want in my life, that were not helping me be the best version of me, but I wasn't allowing myself to be the best version of me because I was always worried about pleasing other people. Well, we can't serve other people. We can't be the best version of ourselves if we're trying to please them, right? Because then we're always concerned about, what do they think? How are they feeling? What do they need? What did I do wrong? Right? When we are pleasing them, we're externally focused. And being selfish, I'm going to say, is internally focused. But so I didn't say this yet. The true definition, if you look up the definition of selfish in the dictionary or on Google, whatever, it will say doing things for yourself at the detriment of other people. What we left off, right? What we were taught was doing, they just cut off the end of that definition. So, what we were taught was being selfish is doing things for myself. They left off the main part, doing things for myself at the detriment to other people. Me protecting my own energy, protecting my own time, protecting my own emotions, examining and exploring, maybe is a better word, with who I am. What are my needs? What are my wants? What are my preferences? What am I tolerating in my life? What do I want to fulfill in my life? What does fulfill me, right? But when we're worried about pleasing other people or worried about being selfish by thinking about ourselves first, right? Then we never explore those things and we're left with doing and pleasing other people. Being, um, I heard one time someone said something about they don't say, now I can't remember. I'll put it in the comments after this live is over. If I can remember the analogy that they made um, about it was something about do for myself. I don't say for themself or for yourself. I say for myself, but that I don't have it right. So I'll put it in the comments of this of the replay. Now, what was I saying? So one of the problems with extreme selflessness is that again, we then think that it's selfish to explore who we are or to speak up for ourselves, to ask for what we need or want or desire or what our preferences are. And we lose our identity, right? I don't know how many women have said to me, I don't even know who I am anymore. And it's so sad to me. I felt that too. I didn't know who I was because I'd always given and done what other people thought I should do or told me I should do, or I just went along with their decisions. I was it was suggested when I was young, just out of high school or graduating from high school, that I should go to college for dental hygiene because they made good money and, I probably would be good at it. And that's what I did. I went straight from high school. I got accepted into dental hygiene school, graduated, got my, my degree in dental hygiene, got board certified, went through all the exams and all of that, and became something that I wasn't passionate about. And all because I let other people basically run my life. And that's because I believe I was taught to not be selfish and to listen to what other people said, especially elders, right? So like it's this huge um hamster wheel basically. It's this endless cycle of thinking we need to please others and that thinking of myself, doing for myself went against pleasing someone else. That was a failure on my part to please myself and not please other people. Again, if we look at the definition, selfish is the definition of selfish is doing for myself at the detriment of other people. And me choosing things for myself does not hurt other people, but that's what we were taught. So, what is the self really? Self is not the selfish ego, right? The self is your soul, your heart, your who you were born to be. It's your worthiness. It's your um it's your energy, it's your spark, it's who you were created to be. That is yourself. And you get to create yourself to be who you want to be. It's not based on what other people want you to be. I need a drink. So we're meant to nurture the self. We're meant to explore the self. We're meant to experiment with what feels right for us. And especially if you've gotten, I'm 62, almost 63. I was 55 before I really recognized this. And so I started experimenting with What feels good to me? What seems like my truth? Right? And then I started living according to that. But you're not just going to wake up one day and say, okay, this is who I am, right? If you've lived for 55 years like I did without knowing who you are and with being what everybody else expected you to be or what you thought they expected you to be. So you have to start experimenting with what feels good to me, what feels right to me, what doesn't feel right to me, and then not do it. But you aren't here to live by other people's rules. And I believe we were taught that selfish was a rule, right? That you had to live by. You could not be selfish and live a fulfilling life. That's what we were taught, and that's what we grew up believing. So we're meant to nurture ourself, to not abandon the self, not to sacrifice the self. And being selfless is a sacrifice. It is sacrificing the self for another person. And again, I just do not believe that we were put here to sacrifice ourselves, to abandon ourselves in order to please another person. So it's not selfish. It's actually survival. It's wisdom, right? I didn't have this understanding until 7 or 8 years ago about how my trying to not be selfish, not be perceived as selfish, was really harming me, how it was so detrimental to my life. So we call it love again, but it's really self erasure. It's self sacrifice, self abandonment. And we weren't put here to abandon ourselves, to sacrifice ourselves for other people. Because again, when we do that, we cannot fully serve from a loving, giving place. And this constant giving, constantly doing for others, this constant being selfless is going to result in resentment because you're not going to see it coming back at you because not everybody believes that they have to live selflessly. And so when you don't feel this giving coming back to you, it's going to create frustration and resentment because you think, I'm so nice. Why aren't they nice back to me? Why are they not doing the the things that, like, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, right? But and that was a question that came up a couple weeks ago in the live is, what was it the person said? Um that they're a people pleaser and have suffered through being abused and berated because I would see walking away as cowardly. And this people pleasing causes us to believe this about ourselves. So it results in resentment and frustration and burnout when we're constantly giving, over giving in order to please and keep other people happy, to keep them comfortable. We're taking on their emotions, their baggage that is their responsibility to handle, but we do it in order to keep them comfortable. We do it at our own expense, and our bodies eventually cannot take any more of that. I was hospitalized 4 times from the same ailment, and I had surgery, like going completely under general anesthesia 4 times for something that I believe my body produced, manifested because of how much I was overgiving and overlooking, tolerating abusive, hurtful behavior, and not speaking up for myself. That was all in the name of not wanting to be selfish. So your body will eventually burn out and you will pay the price, and the cost is high for continually putting other people before yourself and constantly putting yourself on the back burner. So, people pleasing basically is emotional exhaustion, right? It's constantly being worried about what other people think. And there's a saying that worry is basically praying for what you don't want. So, when you're constantly worried about what do they think, what made them uncomfortable, why are they upset with me, right? You're actually praying, you're focusing on what you don't want to happen, what you don't want. And what we focus on is what we get. What we resist persists. And so it can't be any other way. That's the way the energy of the universe works. What we focus on becomes our reality. So if you're constantly worried about them being upset with you, that is the reality that you're going to feel, whether they are actually upset with you or not. But you are going to feel as though you've done something wrong. And that is you creating your reality. Trish said, "I have kept my voice small for so many years. I've been working on making my voice heard again." That's awesome. I'm so happy. Any way that I can help you with that, I have other videos on that exact thing, and I'm actually coming out with a video very soon about how me getting on YouTube has helped me so much. And I'm not suggesting that you get on YouTube and start a channel. I'm just saying the surprising benefits of me starting my YouTube channel and starting to do these things, how much I have found my voice again. Because I'm like you, oh, and that's going to bring tears. I'm like you. I played small. I didn't speak up because that's what I was taught. That's what I was conditioned to believe was to, girls should be seen and not heard. Don't say no, don't talk back. I don't know how many times I heard, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. And so I learned that I needed to either speak really nicely or keep my mouth shut, right? And that grew me into an adult who didn't speak up for herself because I thought it was wrong. I thought I would be selfish. I thought it was mean if I spoke my truth. And so I pushed my truth down. And I'm also creating a video about how me not speaking my truth ended up ruining my thyroid. And so there is a deep, deep connection between autoimmune diseases and people pleasing. And I'm creating a video about that as well. So stay tuned because it's going to be good. I was blown away with the research that I found. Oh, thanks, Trish. I love your videos. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here and commenting, and it feels like I'm not just talking to myself. So thank you so much for being here and sharing in the chat. So what else do I want to say about this? So again, we lose our identity when we're constantly giving to other people. So the last thing then, let's reframe selfishness, right? What if being a little selfish is actually what you were put here to do? And I say a lot selfish, right? Like if we're going to say that selfishness is, putting myself first, then I say go for it, right? Unless you're doing it again at the true definition of being selfish, at the detriment of other people. But I think most people pleasers are, if it's a pendulum, we are over here on doing something to the detriment of other people, right? Maybe for a while you have to swing to the other side and put yourself first so much that it feels like, I know you're not going to do it at the detriment of other people, but you're going to feel like you're hurting other people. Eventually, that will level out and you'll be in the center of the pendulum where you can put yourself first, replenish your own energy, replenish your own tank, fill your own cup, right? And not feel guilty or selfish about it. It does take time, but again, you have to experiment with it and not just say, okay, I'm drawing a line in the sand and this is who I am now, right? You're probably going to have to swing to the other side of the pendulum this side of the pendulum, and feel like live through those feelings of being selfish for a while, feeling guilty, like just live with it. But maybe then asking yourself, when you do feel that way, did I do something wrong? So, whenever you think about or are going to do something for yourself, whether that's taking a bath, taking a nap in your car, taking a nap, period, buying something for yourself, saying no to an invitation to happy hour. I don't care what it is. If you've felt selfish about it in the past, then I want you to pause. If someone asks you to do something, I want you to pause, tell them you'll get back to them, and then think about it. If I say yes to this, how am I going to show up? And as a people pleaser, if you're being honest with yourself, most of the time you're probably going to say, I'm going to show up resentful and begrudgingly, and or maybe I won't even show up at all because I get so overwhelmed that I have so much on my plate that I just ghost them or I cancel at the last minute. So I want you to pause when you get invited to be on a committee or whatever, go out to happy hour, pause and and then tell them you'll get back to them. Thanks for the invite. I'll get back to you, and then think about it for 24 hours. Think, how am I going to show up? How am I going to show up? And let that be your answer. Let that be your guide. Because if it's anything but completely all in, if it's anything but a hell yes, I'm in, then it's a no. It has to be a no. And that's telling you that even if you feel guilty, selfish, I don't care how guilty and selfish, you're going to have to live through that discomfort enough times before your subconscious is like, oh, we don't live in that guilty, selfish place anymore, right? Your subconscious is just running a program that tells you that if you don't say yes, you're being selfish. And so you have to rewire the subconscious mind in order to train it that that's not what we believe anymore. That's a deeply ingrained belief that, again, came from childhood. So, what else can we do? Really, think about caring for your own energy, your own time. If you saw a friend behaving the way you're behaving, like always giving, always doing, always on the go, and then complaining to you about how worn out she is and how resentful she is about someone, then that's a sign, right? Put that on yourself. Is that what I'm doing to myself? And most likely it is if you are used to always putting other people first. So fill your cup so that you can give freely from the abundance, not from the one drop that's left in there. This equates to having boundaries for yourself, and we always think about boundaries being against someone else, right? Getting them to change. We have to have boundaries with ourself. If you can't have boundaries with yourself, boundaries with your own time and energy, like saying no to things. Saying no to something is saying yes to yourself, and that's a boundary. That is a boundary that you're creating for yourself, not against yourself and not against other people. It's for yourself, for your own well being. So, boundaries are basically love in action, and you're showing yourself love and respect and acceptance by putting yourself first. When I can take care of me, I can show up better for everybody else. Have that be a mantra. When I can take care of me first, I show up better for them. Don't let someone calling you selfish or, boy, you're just really, consumed with yourself. Just shake it off. That's their opinion. And you know what they say about opinions? They're like blank. Everybody has one, right? So don't let other people's judgment of you stop you from truly caring for yourself. And again, you're going to have to live through some discomfort from maybe some judgment from other people, maybe name calling, maybe putting you down, but you have to know your own truth. And again, that takes exploring who you are. If I can help with that, I do coaching. This is what I coach women on, and men too, but mostly women because I'm a woman, right? And I have my own experience from it. So if you want that, my calendar link is in the description of this video, for live or for the replay. Grab a space on my calendar. It's a free call just to talk about how I could help you, what resources can suggest for you. I also encourage you to take my free boundaries blind spot quiz because, again, this is a boundary thing, to always put other people first and to think that we're bad for considering ourselves first. So the quiz, the link to the free quiz is also in the description of this video. Again, whether you're watching the live or the replay, it's there. It's a free quiz. It takes you through 7 areas of your life where your boundaries might be leaky. And I would guess that one of the areas is self-worth and self-love or self-acceptance. I would guess if this live video resonates with you, that you're probably going to rank fairly low in that category for boundaries because you're so used to putting other people first. But that chips away at our self esteem, our self confidence, our self worth, our self acceptance, because we're constantly looking for that validation from outside of us. We're constantly looking for other people to tell us that we're okay. That is caused from, again, something that's most likely not your fault. You probably didn't grow into an adulthood as a selfless person and suddenly decide to become selfish. It was conditioned into you, it was taught into you when you were young. And now it's your chance, it's your opportunity in life to rewire, to reprogram, to reparent, to to examine and explore who you want to be. What were you put here on earth to do? And I can tell you, it's not to be selfless. It's not to be avoiding being selfish, seen as selfish, right? Other people are going to judge you no matter what. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. If you're watching the replay, I appreciate you being here. Again, you can grab that free boundaries blind spot quiz and see how you rank in that quiz. I created that based on what I wished I'd had when I was discovering what boundaries were and how I could stop feeling so guilty and selfish for doing things for myself, and how I could create better relationships in my life, how I could create a better relationship with myself. And that's what I'm here to help you do as well. So, again, I appreciate you being here. And I would love to hear your comments, what you got out of this video. And I will see you in the next live. I go live every Wednesday at 1:11 Central Time. So I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday in the live, and watch for upcoming videos as well. Have a great rest of your day wherever you are.